Well, hey there, folks. Welcome back to Untitled Chapter. This is Chris coming to you live from Central Pennsylvania, and we are just 27 minutes away from the very first presidential debate between President Donald John Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Well, that's it, folks. Just a short time away now. Here we go. What's this new pin chat? You can pin a message at the top of your live chat for viewers to read. Interesting. All right, that's cool. Didn't know about that. Let me save that real quick. That's pretty clever. So apparently YouTube is making some improvements to what's going on their channel. So I didn't know this. Let's just go ahead and save that real quick so I can reference that later. All right, folks, welcome into the chat tonight. I don't expect a big crowd, but hopefully we've got a good crowd here. Let's get started. Welcome into the chat. Let's see who's there. I'm going to say hello to everybody, and it looks like it won't take me all that long. Like I said, this is one where I don't expect to see a large audience from Africa or Europe because it's 2:30 in the morning there. So you got to really either have a night shift or be a night owl, a true night owl, or you simply just want to check in and see what's going on because you happen to be up and you can't sleep. For those in the States, those who follow along Chris White Africa here in the States, it's Monday. It's not Monday. It's Tuesday evening here on the East Coast. It's now, let's see, 8:34 p.m. Welcome into the channel, folks. Let me salute everybody here very quickly. And I see the real monster. Prediction, Biden is going to wipe the floors with Trump. I think Trump is going to go in cocky and arrogant. All right, that's a prediction. Thank you, real monster. Proud Neanderthal says good morning, fellow apes. And then 1010 says good morning in 14 minutes. Good morning, 14 minutes. Where are you at? Nova Scotia? 14 minutes. England? No? Let's see. Where would that be? It's already morning there. It's already morning in Monrovia, so you must be like in Nova Scotia. Citizen Guardian is here. Wow, there's a night owl. Catherine Piper's here. Good morning to everybody. Welcome, folks from South Africa, from around the world. Well, as you can see, I am ready for the debate. I have got my extra strength, supersize Frappuccino right here. Yeah, that's the 13.7 fluid ounces. Ooh, that'll be a big puddle of pee there by the time it's all over watching this debate if I'm Joe Biden. D. Stu, how do you think this debate's going to go, Chris? All right, Real Monster says, Chris, maybe not wipe the floor with him, but I think Biden will do better than most think. Well, Real Monster, I think that's not an unfair prediction. I think that most people expect Joe Biden to show up with a blazer and a pair of boxer shorts on. So simply being lucid is probably going to be a victory for Joe Biden in this debate. Also, Chris Wallace, guarantee it, will carry the water for Joe Biden. He hates Donald Trump. This is the last person that is at Fox News who should be doing this debate. This debate should have been done by Shannon Bream or Brett Baer. Then it would have been a legitimate debate. But Chris Wallace has exposed his bias against Donald Trump for the last 3 years, and I don't think he's objective. This is as bad as the CNN debates where you have these rabid anti-Trump people, and that's not their job. Their job is to be a moderator. Their job is to ensure the questions get answered, they keep the flow of the thing going, and don't let the one or the other politician pontificate for long periods of time beyond their fair share of the time. That's their job. Someone mentioned the other day that Chris Wallace was not going to fact-check Donald Trump. Well, good. That's not his job. The fact-checking is for the analysts and for the pundits and for me and for others who analyze what happens here. So, folks, that's not Chris Wallace's job. I don't expect to see Chris Wallace fact-checking the debate as it goes on. It's not his place to say, well, which we've seen in past debates in the last couple presidential cycles, we've seen the moderators actually correct or try to correct the debate participants. It's not their job. If they lie, if they get it wrong on the stage, there are plenty of people who can fact-check that, plenty of people who will make comment about it, but it's not the role of the moderator. Their job is very different. By the way, folks, this debate tonight is at Case Western University in Cleveland, Ohio. Case Western Reserve University, Case Western Reserve University. The Case Western Reserve was part of land originally that belonged to Connecticut, as I recall, back during the early stages of a republic. That land was designated Connecticut. It used to run all the way across into what was Ohio at that time. And so that land was called the Case Western Reserve. And so Case Western Reserve is there. It's been around since, I think, 1836. So quite a while, the university, and it's quite well known. It has a very good reputation for academics. So that's where it's at tonight, folks. Let me see who else has come into the chat. We've got a few other folks who've popped in here. We've got Moderate. Good to see you there. That's a good name for tonight. Moderate. Let's see. D-Stu says, couldn't agree more, Chris. The real monster, maybe. Okay, got that already. Are you doing mail-in voting? I am not. But in fact, don't go anywhere. Let me show you something very quickly. Find it. For those who falsely claim that I don't make an effort to be objective when I talk about things, now obviously you know my political bent, I'm a conservative, but for those of you who say I don't criticize both sides, you're wrong. It's just the one side's far easier to criticize. But this came in the mail today. Let me cover up my address so that we don't disclose that, right? I'll just do this right here. All right, folks, let me show you what this is. This is from the Republican Party of the state of Pennsylvania, right? Check it out. Official Republican Party notice, absentee ballot request form enclosed. All right. Now, Pennsylvania, under the governorship of Tom Wolf, the gentleman who, by the way, violated the Constitution, according to federal Judge Stickman, who said that his decisions for this lockdown back in March were unconstitutional. It violated the U.S. Constitution plus the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Constitution. Governor Wolf signed into law last year a provision which allows this lunacy of mail-in ballots. So political parties are actively contacting those people who are registered with their party, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, and they're sending these things out to help you facilitate getting an absentee ballot. I have a serious problem with this. This is voter fraud 101. Voter fraud 101. Now, this came to my house. I never requested this. I'm registered to vote. I went to the primary in June, which was supposed to be in April, but it was delayed till June. I went to the primary in person in June and voted at the polling station. Perfectly fine, with a mask, maintaining social distance, did my ballot right there. Paper ballot, stuck into an electronic machine, but the paper ballot was kept for a record. So why am I receiving this in the mail telling me to go get an absentee ballot? Fraud, fraud, fraud. Now, you might say, well, you've already voted at the polling station. They got a record of it. Yeah. Do you trust that system's going to work 100%? And more importantly, the undermining of democracy, this is the Republican Party. And those who are registered as Democrats also got one. What about independents who didn't register with any party? They're not being reminded to go register because there's no party that represents an independent voter. 1/3 of the electorate. So I know it's hard to believe people actually forget when the election is or something comes up. But if every registered Republican and likely every Democrat gets one of these with an application for an absentee ballot, what about independents? And what about smaller parties like the Constitution Party, the Green Party, who probably lack the resources to pay for all of these mail-in ballots? And this is mass mailing. This costs a fortune to do this stuff. So it says you're voting by absentee ballot is easy, safe, and secure. Bull crap. Utter nonsense. It's easy. Safe, it's not. Secure, it's not. This is the undermining of democracy. We're falling back to a developing world situation here, ladies and gentlemen. Here you go. Pennsylvania application for mail-in ballot. Right there. Check it out. I didn't ask for this. I didn't request this. Why did this come to me? This is nonsense, utter nonsense, and this will be abused. You watch. That came in the mail today, by the way, folks. Let's see. Who else we got here? Wow, a lot of South Africans are up. You guys must be very keen to see what's going on with Trump. Let me check on it. What's going on there? Okay, I got to switch to a different window on my other thing here. Looks like people are already showing up. I'm going to put this into a little window so you can see it in the background as folks show up in the background. Let me just do that very quickly. And I'm going to have to reduce the size of this window. So stick with me, folks. I'm going to reduce this very quickly and just put it in the background while we build up to the event. So that's whoops, whoa, too small. That's from C-SPAN. Let me put that in the background so you guys can see it. We see people already showing up there. There's the debate stage. Come on. Oh, this is very difficult to move. Sorry, it's not playing nice. Anyway, so, whoa, see, that's not where I meant for that to go. Come on. There we go. Come on. This is like pulling teeth. Okay, got it. Oh, nope, now it's doing its own thing again. All right, I guess I have to be patient. There. Okay, hang on. Let's try this. Come on. There we go. One little pixel at a time. Pixel at a time, pixel at a time. Very frustrating. All right, now we got it on the screen, folks. Is my microphone frozen? I'm not seeing anything with my microphone. All right, well, I need to put my earpiece in now to see if I'm actually getting a connection out there because I don't see anything with my microphone. My microphone appears to be frozen on the screen. And I don't know if that's actually the case. You guys can actually hear me or if it's frozen. So just give me a moment here. I don't want to leave you hanging, folks. So let me make sure that you can actually hear me. It'll just take me a moment to check. And if not, we're going to have a problem here. So let me just do this very quickly. Get back to my channel. Come on. Now this is not cooperating either. So let me get to my channel. And now my earpieces are all locked up, but I just need one earpiece. Let's see if you guys can actually hear me now.
Right now I can rely on the Affordable Care Act.
Okay, well, that should be...
Access to the health
Why is my earplug not working there? All right. So it looks like my microphone is back. Okay. I don't know if it was actually there or not. So,
President.
okay. So it looks like my microphone is back. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Apologize, but this earpiece is not working in this phone. That's a bad sign. It worked before. I don't know why. Anyway, folks, there you go. So it's up on the screen, and obviously my microphone is working again. Must have been some delay in my Streamlabs. Thank you, Citizen Guardian. You can hear me. But let me get back to who's here. Let's see. So are you doing mail-in balloting? That's what I said. Shaq Dweller says, good morning. Proudly Neanderthal says, will you be the truth-o-meter? I'll try. We'll see how it goes, Proudly Neanderthal. But I will be chatting. You'll see me on the screen periodically, and I will be adding things in the commentary, and then I'll be here for the analysis after the stream is over. So when does the debate start? The debate starts in 16 minutes. Of course, it probably won't start right at the top of the hour, but it will start in 16 minutes, folks. Looks like an MMA event. It may be. There's Janet Brown, Commission on the Presidential Debates, the executive director of that. Right, folks? Okay, let's see. All right. My thing is acting up again here. There we go. All right, good. Actually kind of warm in here. Let me take this off, folks. Too warm. Too warm. Cooking here. All right, there we go. All right, so I got my Hershey Bears shirt on tonight. It's not a rugby shirt, but it's too warm to wear that. Might have to turn the aircon on here in the house. But anyway, so you guys can hear me just fine, and we'll be coming up here shortly with the first presidential debate between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden, as the national director there is now sharing the rules of the debate and that sort of thing. You don't need to hear that. It's going to be the standard sort of nonsense. They get a question, a chance to respond, or rebuttal from the other candidate, and back and forth. Anyway, folks, your predictions. Let's get everybody's predictions who's in the chat. You're taking the time to chat, so let's get your thoughts. Who wins this debate if it's a legitimate debate? Let's hear who you've got to say. Some people are probably going to say Joe Biden. Some people are going to say Donald Trump, but I suspect that most people are going to say Donald Trump. So what are your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen? Give me your feedback. Sorry, I'm looking for something. There it is. I left my Fitbit on the floor. Just want to make sure I had it there. All right, so here we go. What we got going on here? Yeah, well, my video is acting up. Is that correct? Just I'm looking up here. It looks okay to me, but I should look at my stream and see how that looks, because let me come over here very quickly. Yeah, it's a little jerky. Folks, I want to shut my camera off for just a moment and see if it improves, okay? Sometimes that does the trick. So let me shut my camera down. The microphone will still be active, so don't sweat that. I'm going to shut my camera down. Don't freak out. It'll be just a moment. All right, and we'll see if we can't get it back to a better picture here, because it does look a little jerky as I'm watching it, and that's unfortunate. But that may be a resource thing here on the computer. So let's see what happens here. All right. Camera's coming back up here in just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. All righty, come on, anytime now. Anytime now. Waiting for the camera. It looks like it's back up, but I don't see it up yet. That's kind of interesting. Okay, now I finally see my camera in the application. Here it is. Okay, and now I see it back on the screen. Okay, hello. Right, okay, so it looks like we're doing okay. CPU's got a lot of use. The memory's not doing too bad. All right, so I'll do Trump. Okay, Citizen Guardian was the first to pipe up and say Trump will win. All right. Anybody else want to take a gander or take a risk? Take a bet. Share with us your thoughts about who's going to win this debate tonight. Davi Osto. Davi, good evening to you. Welcome, Davi. Wow, interesting. Got farmers on the hook tonight. So Frank Fahrenkopf. Now that's a pretty cool name. Fahrenkopf. Driving head. The verb to drive is fahren and Kopf is head. So the driving head. I guess that means the leader. The Commission on Presidential Debates. He's the co-chair. Right, so they're just running through all the stuff there, folks, at Case Western Reserve University. Yeah, it does look like I'm really choppy there, so that's interesting. What will happen, though, folks, is once the debates get started, I'll reduce my picture or take it off the screen, and I'll be providing commentary in the comments there, and you'll have full screen. You'll be able to see the debate. So that'll be coming up here shortly. In about 13 minutes, we should be there. But by the way, folks, what was released today, or not today, but yesterday, I should point out this famous story from the New York Times in which they claim that Donald Trump is a business failure and that he's a cheat because he hasn't paid any taxes. Folks, you should read the entire New York Times story, by the way, if you haven't. You'll notice at the beginning they say that he paid just like $700 in taxes over this time period from, I think, 2010 to 2017. Well, that's a lie. Read the rest of the article. You'll find later in the article, after the fold, you will find that, in fact, they admit that Donald Trump paid $24 million in federal income tax. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, because Donald Trump, like most people who make over $150,000 per year, was subject to the alternative minimum tax, one of the most disgraceful theft-stealing pieces of legislation in American history. So if you make a certain amount of money, you are taxed again so that they can punish you for your success. And under the alternative minimum tax, which most Americans, well, not most, but a lot of Americans don't have to pay, Donald Trump paid an additional $24 million of taxes. Now, where was that in the New York Times? Where was that from the lying leftist pundits who told you that Donald Trump is a business failure and he paid no taxes? Simply an outright bold-faced lie. Surprise, surprise. This was the New York Times October surprise, and frankly, as far as October surprises go, it came too early, and it's all lies. And the fact that they actually told the truth later in the story just shows you how dishonest they are. So if you ever trust the New York Times, you might want to reconsider that, folks. Let's see. Proud Neanderthal says, compared to South African politicians, Trump is an angel. Well, compared to most politicians, Trump is an angel, to be honest. Let's be honest here. He pays business taxes, real estate taxes, state taxes. That's correct, these two. And he paid $24 million in personal income tax on top of all of that. Yet they claimed he paid $700. Lie, 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 lie. That would be the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen. And you can read their own article. I'm not making this up. My source is the New York Times. That's where the story came from. They're the ones that told both fairy tales, both of which are truth, but by themselves, it's a lie of omission. Yep. D-Stu says, disgusting New York Times. Absolutely. This is nothing new, ladies and gentlemen. This is the New York Times that we know. This is how they behave. Hence the reason why a lot of people in the center and right call them the New York Slimes. Of course, the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos this day, the Graham family having sold out the Post to Jeff Bezos, often known as the Washington Compost by many people. And here's Kenneth Wallach from the Commission on Presidential Debates, the other co-chair. Do we know the rules of debates? Yeah, I pretty much just said them, Proud Neanderthal. They'll be presented a question, and there'll be an opportunity to respond. They get, I think, usually 90 seconds or 2 minutes, and then the opponent gets a chance for rebuttal. And depending on the nature of the question, they might go back to the original person the question was posed to. That's usually if the person who rebuts says something that refutes or attacks the other candidate, they usually give them a chance to go back. So Moderate says Donald Trump should win it. Okay, there you go. All right, so problem is so many uneducated people don't do any further research, but believe me, believe whatever headlines. That's right, these two, they believe the headlines. Again, I'm not researching his tax records, which, by the way, were illegally released. That's a criminal act, and someone should be punished for that, including the New York Times. They're not protected by freedom of the press. That's not freedom of the press. That's disclosure of someone's personally identifiable information, and that's a federal crime, the way that that information was released. That is only between the government and the individual taxpayer. That's correct, folks. Notice I didn't say citizen, because people who are not Americans earn American income and pay American taxes. So the individual taxpayer, that's why it's called a taxpayer identification number if you're not an American citizen, because it's not a social security number. Yeah, so the fact that people are uneducated, but the thing is, it was right there in the New York Times article. Just go down and read the entire thing, and you will see that they mention he paid $24 million plus in personal income tax under the alternative minimum tax, the AMT. That's right, folks. That's right. So there you go. Anyway, so how are we doing here? Got a decent sized audience for tonight, so thanks for tuning in. Wasn't expecting to see more than 3 or 4 people, and I just thought I'd do this so people could watch it later on. But I'm happy to offer my commentary. Citizen Guardian, I'm really happy to see you. I don't know if you got a chance to watch the stream earlier with Joe Stong. Joe Stong was the guy who set up that outdoor trip to Wyoming. Really good stream. Really enjoyed it quite a bit. I think I'm going to keep all of my my political hats off and try to be a little bit more balanced in this discussion tonight. Citizen Guardian says, I want to take a moment to let you know that I would not be missing this exact stream for the world. As someone who loves the U.S., what happens in the U.S. impacts the world. Well, it does. Whether we want to be the world's policeman or not, what happens in America affects the world. When America catches a cold, the world gets a cold. It's just, that's the reality. That's not arrogance. That's not hubris. That's just reality, folks. Look back to the financial crisis of 2008, the government-generated financial crisis of 2008. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The direct result of the government, not of crooked bankers or thieving bankers, but a direct result of the U.S. government's intrusion into the marketplace and its distortion of the marketplace by supporting Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac as artificial parastatals, while allowing it at the same time to be a private business entity with shareholders to whom they also had to answer. They put them in an untenable position, weakened the housing market, and then forced banks to loan money to people who were not credit worthy. Those subprime mortgages never should have been made, done in the interest of fairness. Well, the fairness nearly cost the world its financial system. And so it's high time we stop this nonsense. You want to help people who are suffering? Get them education. Get them educational opportunities. Don't give people free rides for money they can't pay back. And so the government financial crisis of 2008, which caused a global financial crisis. America gets a cold, the world gets the flu. There you go. I need his auditor, says the moderator. Well, we don't know what his income was. I didn't read that much. I just read, the tax because I was kind of curious about what the New York Times had to say about it. How much income did he have? Probably quite a bit in order to pay $24 million in taxes. But yeah, that's quite a bit. But yeah, I could use his auditors too. Which title in the U.S. is the most reliable source of news? That's a difficult one, proudly Neanderthal. My recommendation is that you read multiple sources of news in the United States and choose for yourself. You can see the pretty obvious political bents when you read the Washington Post. What I used to say until Bezos bought the paper is that it was always biased, but at least it was objective in what it chose to report on. It reported on actual news and didn't disguise opinion as news. However, since Bezos bought the paper, it has shifted even further to the left, and now you can't even count on them for reliable reporting. It's a mouthpiece of the leftist, for the most part, which is unfortunate because the Washington Post has done some amazing reporting over the years, and it just breaks my heart to see that it has shifted so far one way. If it stayed in the center, I would have been much happier. But beyond that, it's difficult. Some local papers are still reliable, but when it comes to news, you would think that the Associated Press would be a legitimate, balanced source of news. But even the Associated Press cherry picks news stories. By the way, folks, how many of you know that Donald Trump signed, as I believe, an executive order? I have to search, but signed on sickle cell anemia. How many have heard that? Did you hear about that? Do you know about that? Do you know about the Platinum Plan to help black communities? Have you heard about that? Probably not. You're probably aware of criminal justice reform. Are you aware that somewhere, and this I have to fact check, but somewhere around 90% of the people who get a break under the criminal justice reform enacted under Donald Trump's presidency, which he was the proponent for, thanks to Kim Kardashian and Kanye West, but he was the proponent for it, not Congress. He was the one who pushed for this because the Obama administration didn't do any criminal justice reform. They left people rot in jail. It was Donald Trump. Somewhere around, I don't know what the actual figures, but I've heard citation that 91% of those being released under criminal justice reform are black Americans. Now, I don't know if that's reliable, so I'm not going to state that. But I will say is that the biggest beneficiary of it by far, and we know this for a fact, have been those convicted of drug offenses who were stuck in jail and who've been able to get out now. The Second Chance Act, another piece of legislation aimed at those who've been incarcerated, overwhelmingly benefits black Americans. How many people have heard of this? How many people have heard of this? Anybody? Yeah, Tucker Carlson is an op-ed, but he's an investigative journalist. And so he actually brings you news from things he investigates. Folks, we are now 4 minutes away from when the debate is supposed to start. So we'll see if it actually does start on time. And I'm just going to go ahead and adjust things here in just a moment and get them up on the screen. So let me go ahead and get this so that we're adjusted. Let me find my picture. Let me just do this quickly so that you guys can see a little bit better. So I want to make this fit the screen. Let's see if it works. Transform to fit screen. There you go. Okay, I'm smaller now. I'm going to go ahead and reduce my camera so we cut down on, there you go, on resources. Okay, so let me see if I get this right. All right, there we go. It's working. Okay, all right, that's a good sign. All right, let's get this up. Come on, get up there. I'll tell you, man, this Streamlabs can be a little difficult at times. It's not handling resources very well, sucking up a lot of memory. But I'm just trying to get set up for the debate, which will start here in just a couple minutes, folks. So let me get my camera up there. Let's see how that looks, okay? I am now, okay, I'm going to have to move this up. Oh, here comes, look at the mask on. People wearing the mask. That's interesting. Okay, where's my camera at? There it is, okay. Okay, give me a moment here. Well, you guys can keep watching. You don't need me for that. Okay, I got to keep moving around this. Okay. Okay. Okay, almost. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. I want this one. Stop it. There you go. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm almost there. Okay, there's Chris Wallace. I'm going to go ahead and turn him on, folks, so you guys can hear him. And now you should be able to see me as well. Okay, there we go. Good. Here's Chris Wallace, ladies and gentlemen, from Fox News, who is your moderator for tonight's debate. Let me go ahead and turn his voice on. And I'm not hearing anything. Why am I not hearing anything? No, I'm not hearing anything. Why am I not hearing anything? I don't hear a darn thing. That's odd. What is going on here? Why can't I see this? All right, let me just turn that off for a moment. I don't know what's going on with that, folks. I'm not hearing anything here, so let me put myself back on very quickly while I try to adjust this. Turn down the video quality. Yeah, that's not going to affect the voice, though. That will affect the video quality, but that's not going to... Ah, man. Okay, here we go. Quality. It's already down on... It's on low quality already, so turn it down to 240. Okay, now why am I not hearing this? There's nothing there. There's no sound. Very strange. Why are we not hearing that? Odd. Let me open up another stream and find out what's going on, folks. Here, maybe there's another stream that's got it with the sound. Okay, let me see this one.
Joe Biden tried.
Okay, that one's got sound. I don't know why this one doesn't have sound. Okay. That's Fox News. I don't want Fox News. Interesting. I guess there's no sound from the debate yet, folks, because, yeah, there's not just C-SPAN. I've got Fox on now, and there's no sound coming from that. So I guess we're going to wait till they come on stage. Chris Wallace, we can't hear. Isn't that fascinating? That's weird. I've never seen that, folks. Yep. Where did my C-SPAN go? That's really weird. That is very strange. I've never seen anything like that before.
Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and by contributions to your PB.
Well, I don't want PBS. I want C-SPAN. And there's still nothing there, ladies and gentlemen. That's very strange. Very
PBS
strange.
station from.
Very strange. Well, I don't know what's going on with it, but hang on, folks. We'll see what's going on. Hopefully it'll come up here in just a moment. I don't know what the spiel is here, why we're not hearing Chris Wallace. He's not even on PBS. I guess they're holding the sound off until the debate actually starts. There we go. All right, there we go. Now we got it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll put it on now for you. Here we go. Here we go. There's Melania, the First Lady. There you go, a little bit better picture there. That's better, folks. Well, what are we waiting on? Let's go. Come on, Don and Sleepy Joe. Let's get out here, ladies and gentlemen. Donations to a PBS station from viewers like you. That's right. That's right. Only when they show Doctor Who. Well, we are waiting at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, ladies and gentlemen. In case you're not familiar with that, once again, I'll share that with you. Case Western Reserve University is located up there near Cleveland. Yeah, good point there, Moderate. Our dear leaders are always late. Isn't that fascinating? Whether it's Cyril Ramaphosa or anyone else, they're always late. I'm going to make myself a little bit smaller because I'm not the focus of this at the moment. Well, that's way too small. There you go. Okay. Hear a lot of people milling about there, folks. Yeah, so back to Donald Trump's tax returns. They lied about them. The New York Times simply lied. And they put the facts in their story. So when I call them lying, they've also told the truth. But the lie is the act of omission by not being honest about what was happening with Donald Trump's tax returns. They said he only paid $700 in taxes. Yeah, $700 in standard income tax, but as millions of Americans are caught under the alternative minimum tax, the AMT, he paid over $24 million in taxes. Yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. You got to love it. You got to love how they fib and lie about everything. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in to Chris Wyatt Africa. You are watching now live from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. the first presidential debate between Donald J. Trump and Joe Biden. This will be moderated by Chris Wallace from Fox News, and we are waiting for the candidates. Probably, I don't know, Trump's getting a new tie or Joe's being reminded to put his trousers on. I'm not sure what's happening. One RB says, hey, for how much will Trump sue the New York Times? Surely we'll take them to court. Well, I think that Trump will probably not bother with the New York Times. It's a distraction. He has enough distractions from fraudulent impeachment charges and Russia collusion narratives and investigations by special counsels who are illegitimately appointed. So I think he has more important issues to deal with and bigger fish to fry. For instance, after the election, assuming Trump is reelected, it ought to be time to take the gloves off and pursue all these people who violated the Constitution. It looks like Chris, you can see the teleprompter there in front of Chris Wallace at a distance. Actually, I'm getting a little chilly now. I was cooking a bit ago, but now I'm getting chilly. So I'm glad that I brought, I've still got my sweatshirt here. I'm going to put it back on, folks. Sorry. But put my Rugby 2019 World Cup sweatshirt back on because it's got a little chilly all of a sudden. Maybe I'm just excited about the debate like everybody else. Well, there's Chris Wallace, ladies and gentlemen. He's ready. Come on, Don. Joe, let's get with it, boys. Let's start this thing off. Biden's earpiece has no sound. Perhaps that might be the case.
Good evening from the Health Education Campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the 2 candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
Nice change of pace that the questions weren't given to the Democratic candidate before the election like CNN does. Remember that? CNN gave Hillary Clinton the questions.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way. In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is, and that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice, she seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as a say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to
Go
socialist.
ahead.
You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
Biden.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said, and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act.
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me about this.
I'm happy to talk about this.
And if you were here,
Look,
it wouldn't be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You didn't want me to ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million people.
You're
Mr.
not gonna be able to
President, as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her
minute?
view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
comprehensive
Obamacare.
plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris,
you're
that was the
debating
worst
him,
part
not
of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe.
The
individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like
and we will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your
Go ahead.
question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done,
He has not cut
insulin.
health
I give
care.
you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
Let me
but
ask
this is
you about,
big.
you'll
This
be
is
happy,
big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
Well, if I can ask you the question, it will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed
Number two.
with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it. And that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not
you
going to
didn't
listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not by
here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2 days
I tell
early.
you,
You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to
With
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just
agree.
want to
Hey,
make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
God, I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go,
the wrong
Joe,
night
go.
at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
You
Mr.
have any
President.
idea?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well,
President.
I tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them
Number
better
three.
health care at a much lower price because
and by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do that.
already fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a plan.
fixed it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as
single
you might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
Gentlemen, you realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? Yeah. If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
and I
known
just
for.
had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
Okay.
Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work.
So
we do want to get rid of it.
Chris,
we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give
better.
you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is the question is
the radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so
list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
I'm not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject, so let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward. In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back in March exactly
so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools that cost a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
No,
Wait a minute.
It's his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no
very-
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was-
far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
You made a
by the
point. Let him answer it.
And there was we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people. Far more people.
And,
you would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own,
You were
his
months behind me,
own
Joe.
CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, We're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives.
God.
It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call them.
So you're suggesting that the head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
he
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be after
about when it's
that.
generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be delivering.
This is the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically, and you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have the vaccine sooner
I want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
or Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, and by the way.
I spoke to the scientists that are in charge.
By the way.
They will have the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market, one of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if
We'll
you
see
would have
who's
had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
if you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I'd know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
Tell that
them
to
plastic.
Nancy Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer.
By the way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the Senate. And he sits on his golf course. And I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a political
I've got to respond.
But those states are not doing well that are shut down right now.
Got to respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are okay.
of
You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, look
serious
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a little bit more than a minute left in this
masks
segment.
Masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with...
Because nobody will show up.
People with...
Well, it's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you not worried about it spreading
as a president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about the disease
We have a lot of people.
Sir?
Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours' notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay. By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35,000, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
economy?
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no. Sir, it's just wrong statement. Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen,
a phony
we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built
Sir,
a great company.
I'm asking you a specific question, which is...
let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars,
So
yes.
not $750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. You'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the The corporate tax, 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president
because,
with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
Right.
your
I got
tax
it-
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And
like it's never boomed
The economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me
wait,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for the American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
booming.
booming.
He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to, wait,
$1929.
is it fair to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in the hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take
guy
a
is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
agree.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having that.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down
All right, gentlemen,
18%. China ate your lunch, Joe. And no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at
true.
it, why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that-
deserve
Wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh,
It's
really? He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5 million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he
let's
didn't get
talk-
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5 million.
President,
That is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
It
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
شه. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
no job.
My son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
the only guy
President,
that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oth.
So let me
under
ask you
oath,
this,
under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even
you.
the people under.
He got $3.5 million from
testified-
Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like
honorably.
to know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
some people don't do
well,
a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say-
You get
Here's the
wait
deal.
a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say to you,
No. Mr. President.
$3.5
Mr.
million,
President.
Joe.
That is simply.
Why did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5 million
It
from
did-
Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family,
No, let him go.
my family
Already
lost
wrote.
a fortune by
That's
coming
right.
down
Go
and
ahead.
helping
Go
us
ahead.
with
Go ahead,
government.
sir.
And that's such a.
they're right
that's
here.
a-
Mr.
That's
President.
such
Every
a great.
single one of them lost
This
a
is not
fortune
about
by
President.
my
coming and
family or
helping
his
us
family.
with
It's
government.
about your family,
They
the
didn't
American
collect $3.5
people.
million
He
for
doesn't.
nothing.
That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
you
here.
should
All right.
Not
That's the end
about
of
here.
that's the end of the
Shouldn't have
segment.
taken the money.
We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice
it's a very-
President,
but Chris,
no,
can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I-
He
I-
stood
good
up.
No,
he stood up,
the answer to
and
the
he
question is no.
threatened Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you don't
That
get rid of
is
the press.
you know what, you're-
absolutely
wait,
not
stop.
You're on
true.
tape doing it.
You're going to
Not
have
tape.
True.
Gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but
on
it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
Got a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
there's
than.
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president has ever said anything like that.
It is whose
Now,
2 minutes, sir.
second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African-American community.
So,
President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community. You have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and, in many cases, radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it. But we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place, and you say peaceful protest?
President Trump,
no, it's
I'm not
not,
asking,
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment.
Fine.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is radical about racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and, frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't know.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this than he does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
The reason is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow it.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead,
I'm
say
in
it.
favor.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order.
Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right, we're now.
is president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to.
of America.
We
Mr.
were
President,
breaking every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
And
we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
those
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died, shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've never seen.
He would know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not.
So much better.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. Yeah. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police offices. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law
support.
Look, he has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do
No,
anything.
think
All right.
about it.
Look,
Name one law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There
moderator's
aren't. I don't
role,
think there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You have never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
Really? Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so here's the
all right.
But here's the point.
Go ahead,
the point
sir.
is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly,
and
every single solitary time.
Okay, and to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
His
repeatedly.
statement. Wait,
you have
just 1
No,
second.
you've been talking back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir.
I would love to end it. And
if you want to switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that, but
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
right
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing.
FBI director
This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got to be
not
kidding.
militia. That's what his
it's an idea.
FBI. His FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're
When
moving.
a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, There has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone head-to-head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can you add back
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes, you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He wasn't dishonorably
cocaine use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He made a fortune.
My son.
And he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions of dollars?
But he wasn't given tens of millions of dollars. That is totally discredited.
We've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about
not
true.
Gentlemen,
that report is totally discredited.
Mitt
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful, clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe?
cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this
I think
planet?
a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of management.
But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars and trucks?
Well, not really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
In the case of California, they've simply ignored
No, but you would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars, too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Right. Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that, in fact, is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is a guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows too. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion.
Look,
that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're going
by the case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because
country.
I actually wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
But let him finish, sir.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
He did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars now, on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. But the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion,
that is
not $20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
Not my plan.
You want to rebuild every
If he knew anything about,
he made a statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is
you're
he
done
said
in this segment.
he called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never say that to the
Play
military.
it. Play it.
Go ahead. Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
Oh, you don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or are you going to get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well, because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that.
Sir,
all run by
2
Democrats.
minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump.
It's a rigged election.
You're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what are you going to do about it? If there are millions of ballots going out right now,
what you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote.
But what I'm saying is, what are you going to do about the fact that millions of people...
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending... They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
There is no evidence
This is
of that.
not going to end well.
5 states have had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he knows the outcome.
You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this, Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me, Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots
I have a final
sent in
question.
and swamping the system,
you
know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already there's been
so
fraud.
Mail service delivers 185 million pieces of mail a day.
In 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks.
Could be months.
Until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest? And will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what,
does that
from
mean,
a common sense,
does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it. Number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot count.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night. Thank you.
What a bunch of manure, ladies and gentlemen. As predicted, Chris Wallace was going to carry the water for Joe Biden. I will say that I'm impressed that Joe Biden didn't collapse on the stage here. He actually had a pair of trousers on and, for the most part, was able to string sentences together. In many respects, for the left, he probably proved that he's not demented. He's not suffering from Alzheimer's. So in that respect, it's a victory for Joe Biden. Notice how his wife can't even be around. She has to wear a mask in his presence. Joe going over to thank Chris Wallace for the job carrying the water for him, ensuring that he had a chance to succeed. All right, folks, I'm going to turn them off now. And it's very quiet there. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the debate from Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. Let me go ahead and get that off the screen, folks. Thanks for sticking with me this year. I hope that you've found this interesting. And why is that not going away? There we go. No, it's still there. Just let me get rid of it really quick here, folks. Oh, I think it's the wrong window. That's why. All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to get rid of that. And I'm going to close that puppy off there real quick. There you go. All right, folks. That was somewhat disappointing, to say the least. That was less a debate and more of a farce, to say the least. Let me go ahead and get myself set up here. I've got a number of comments for everybody here just to run across some of what was covered there. Let me get your comments and see who's still here in the chat. Sean Menich is here, Larsalis, D. Stu, Yanni Meyer, and the winner is Chris Wallace. Yeah, I think maybe that's the case, Yanni. Although I would say that Donald Trump got his digs in. That was pretty good. Devolve is still here. 1RB Trump, totally ignoring Wallace there. Well, good for him, ignoring Wallace. Wallace deserves to be ignored. What a pathetic bunch of nonsense that was. Charlotte says, thank you to me. Tucker Carlson's moderator. That would be a good debate. Yeah, why is it not Tucker Carlson instead of this leftist, talking mouthpiece, Chris Wallace, who's proved he's not even remotely objective here. So Proudly Neanderthal has been here all along. Charlotte's Web. Who else makes? Robin popped into the stream. Thank you for coming in, Robin. And Tez Ting showed up here. Thank you for that. All right, folks, let me get to, if I'm missing anybody, my apologies, but let me get to some of the comments here. I've written down a lot of things. Let's just go back and start this and cover some of the stuff. So at the beginning, the discussion was about the Supreme Court of the United States and the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett. And for that discussion, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump said, well, we have the Senate, we have the White House, we being the Republican Party, and we have the right to nominate a replacement for Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Well, not only does he have the right, ladies and gentlemen, but constitutionally he has the obligation to nominate someone. Barack Obama did fulfill his obligation by nominating Merrick Garland, but unfortunately for him, he didn't control the Senate, so he didn't get his nominee. But Barack Obama did fulfill his obligation. Donald Trump has an obligation to fulfill his role under the Constitution. So, yeah, that's a good point. And as Donald Trump pointed out in the famous words of Barack Obama himself, elections have consequences. This is why the Democrats are so wetting in their underwear right now, their nappies, because they can't stop it. That's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. They cannot stop it, and it really is torching their shorts. It's burning their bums that they can't stop this process from going through. So that's the bottom line with that. Biden says, now this was comical. I don't really know where Biden was going. It showed he was off the mark from the outset, but let's just cover this very quickly. By the way, folks, 33 watching, if anyone could smash the like button, we get some high percentage of viewers with the like, it'd be nice. But the American people have a right to say who's on the court. In what way? Do we get to take a poll and say, okay, well, now you're in charge? What a bunch of nonsense that is, folks. What a bunch of nonsense that is. No, the American people don't have a say. The only say the American people have is in selecting the president of the United States and voting for senators, which indirectly gives them a say because the Senate must confirm all presidential nominations for the court. But the public has had its say. In 2016, the public voted for Donald Trump. Contrary to what Joe Biden says, the president's term doesn't end when an election cycle starts. If that was the case, Donald Trump's presidency would have ended 2 years ago. It's utter nonsense. His term ends when the next president is sworn in January, the third week of January. That's the bottom line. So he has until then to nominate someone. That is his prerogative. That is his privilege. Let's see. What else do we have here? And then he says, but American people aren't going to get that chance because Donald Trump's going to prevent them from getting. He said the election's underway. We should wait. Wait for what? Wait for someone to come in who's different? That's not how the process works. He said the president wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Well, good. Good riddance to the Affordable Care Act, a piece of disgusting legislation that made it a punishable fine to not pay a fee as an American. How un-American can you get? He said that it stripped 20 million, or excuse me, I said that, He said that it stripped all these people from health insurance. He got it wrong. It actually stripped 20 million working Americans, the ACA did. 20 million working Americans lost their health insurance because of the way that insurance rigging scheme was set up, the ACA folks. He said that 100 million people with pre-existing conditions would be stripped of health coverage. That's a lie. That's just a made-up figure he threw out there, trying to scare people with the figure of 100 million. Where does that come from? No facts on that whatsoever. Trump said people have already had their say as far as this. Biden is going to extinguish 180 million privately insured people with state-run health care. Well, that's a true story there, ladies and gentlemen. Half the country has private health insurance, and it would all be extinguished with the Affordable Care Act implemented in the way that Joe Biden wants. Biden said that he wants to expand Obamacare. What a disaster that was for the country. He wants to increase it. And then he said, the Democratic Party is me. Well, if the Democratic Party is Joe Biden, I'd be worried if I was a Democrat. He said, I am the Democratic Party. The platform is what I approved of. Well, one would hope that's the case. Then he blamed Donald Trump for the death of 200,000 people from COVID-19. We know, in fact, the number is under 15,000. The CDC itself actually accidentally released the true statistics instead of the supposed people who've died from COVID-19. And then Biden said something strange. He said, how many of those have survived of the 200,000? I really don't know what he's asking there. Then Trump pointed out that veterans died as a consequence of Joe Biden and Barack Obama's administration, and there's truth to that. Over 300,000 veterans died waiting for medical care over the past decade when Obama and Biden were in office, the 8 years they were in office. Trump says 2 million people would have died had it not been for the actions of his administration under COVID-19. Well, that's a counterfactual. That's just an estimation, President Trump, and I won't cut you slack on that. The community that told you that, the CDC and the National Institutes for Health, have been wrong about everything else in COVID, so who's to say they were right about that projection? So it's a nice talking point, but I disagree with it. Biden said that Roe versus Wade is on the ballot. It's not. His point is that's a moot point. In fact, the question of Roe versus Wade is not on the ballot because we're talking about Amy Coney Barrett, a conservative Catholic, being appointed to the court and giving a clear majority of 5-4, even with the turncoat swing vote of Chief Justice John Roberts, who can't decide whether he's a constitutionalist or he is in the bank for the leftists on any given day. So he's not a conservative vote, despite the fact that people claim he is. So the court is not 5-3 right now. It is 4-4. With Amy Coney Barrett, it's going to be 5-4, a clear distinction. And occasionally it'll be 6-3 when John Roberts crosses over, when it looks like the vote or the wind is blowing in the right direction. So it's not on the ballot. It's a decided deal. Amy Coney Barrett is going to be the next Supreme Court justice, and Roe versus Wade, if it comes before the court, will be decided. But it's not a ballot issue. It's already decided. That ballot issue was decided in 2016 when Donald John Trump won, and he nominated 3 justices to the court. There you go, folks. Of course, we know that's Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and now Amy Coney Barrett. That's when it was decided. Not now, but in 2016. So Joe's a little confused there. Then Biden claimed Trump shut down the economy and caused people to lose jobs. Simply wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Simply wrong. Flying Board just gave a super chat. Said, Chris Wallace, what a slime ball this guy is. I agree. And I've been saying that for a long time there, Flying Board. He is a real slime ball who pretends to be objective when he's not. He's simply not objective. It's unbelievable. Sorry about your super chat not showing up there. It's because of sorry, I'm mumbling there. The super chats have somehow wound up under my camera, so my apologies for that. Let me move my camera down in case anybody does a super chat. Anybody wants a super chat, your super chat will show up. Flying Boar, my apologies. Getting an extra free salute there for the $5 Canadian super chat. Good to see there, Flying Boar, up at this hour watching this with us. And so Joe Biden is simply mistaken. Donald Trump didn't shut down the economy. Cyril Ramaphosa's government shut down the economy. He had control over that. Donald Trump doesn't have control. The governor of Pennsylvania is the one who destroyed the economy in this state. The governor of New York is the one who destroyed New York's economy and damaged the U.S. The governor of Washington State, Jay Inslee, is the one who shut down Washington State. Donald Trump didn't shut down any states and any economies. In fact, he's pushed for just the opposite. One could question the merit of Donald Trump pushing for economies to be open. That's a legitimate question, although I agree with Donald Trump, but it's a legitimate point. But to simply lie and blame Donald Trump for the shutdown of the economy is fiction in the wildest degree ever. Flying Boy says, how do you think Trump performed tonight? That should come up in a sec. Okay, why is it not showing up on top of the screen? That is just not right. It still didn't go. My apologies for that. Why is it not going up there? There it is. Fine, Boar, my bad. Your super chat didn't show up again. You have a super chat there. Let me get a $5 Canadian super chat from the Flying Boar. How did Trump perform tonight? I would give Trump a B-, because he didn't hit Joe Biden on the facts when he could have. First off, the Paris Climate Accord is nonsense. He went off on a riff that was not the effective. I think that Trump could have hit Biden more effectively on several points. Also, he really needed to back off a couple of times and just simply interrupting. It was a tactic he was going to use. Biden got away with it, but we knew that Chris Wallace was sympathetic to Joe Biden. So there's no question about that. Trump has got 2 minutes to talk. Biden interrupts him, and he tells Trump to shut up when he's spoken for 1 minute and 15 seconds, and then allows Biden to talk for 1.5 minutes, which was Trump's time, and then he asks Biden a question. That's crap. That's utter nonsense. And then he says, sir, you've had 2 minutes. No, I timed it. It was 1 minute and 28 seconds, not 2 minutes, Chris Wallace. And you really think that the world's not watching and paying attention? We all aren't watching the time on the clock? What a bunch of nonsense. What a bunch of nonsense. But we knew Chris Wallace was going to carry the water. I would give Trump a B-. I would give Joe Biden a C+, because he walked out with a pair of trousers on. He didn't collapse. Whatever amphetamines he was on managed to keep his energy level up. And so I would give Joe Biden a C+ and Donald Trump a B-. It was a pathetic debate. With no question about it. It was the most disrespectful and vile debate I've ever seen in the modern history. I mean, Joe Biden has no business being president with his boorish, rude behavior. I thought Donald Trump was a bore and a cad in 2016 when he talked about little Marco and lying Ted and all the other stuff he was saying about his opponents. But that's nothing. That's nothing. Joe Biden's disdain and disrespect for the office of the president makes him ineligible for the office of presidency in my mind. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. He was disgraceful in his commentary. But that aside, because Trump was a bit out of behavior too, I'm going to have to castigate him for some of his behavior. But he didn't call Biden names in the way that, Biden called the sitting president a clown. This clown. Excuse me? What planet are you on? You think that that's acceptable? That's not acceptable. Barack Obama was a clown. An utter clown. A complete fraud. Yet his opponents never said that about him, particularly on the debate stage. On the campaign trail, it's a different story. But on the debate stage, the decorum was pathetic. And Joe Biden, not terrible. But I'll set that aside, and I'll set Trump's aside. Trump, B-, Joe Biden, C+. Mostly because we expected Joe Biden to walk out there with no trousers on and boxer shorts. I'm embellishing, but you get my point. Biden actually held it together, although he said so much gobbledygook. I can't even unpack all of this because it take hours to do. But he wants to expand Obamacare. What a disaster that is. So he's going to double down on a failed bill that never should have been passed. Remember, Nancy Pelosi, we'll read the bill after we pass it. People actually defend legislation like that. That's how bad it was that they had to lie to people and get them to vote for it before they ever even saw it. Yep. So, let's go on from there. Let's see. Wallace said here we go. So after Biden fraudulently claimed that Trump shut down the economy, then Chris Wallace attacked Donald Trump by saying, you're in an argument with your own scientist. Actually, that's not true. That is a media lie and a myth. It's the scientists who are not consistent. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Fauci has changed his opinion on everything more times than a 15-year-old debutante does going to the junior prom. He changes his opinion on medical situations more times than a bride changes her undergarments on her wedding night. Pathetic. Fauci said, don't wear a mask in January. Then he tells us you're going to go to jail if you don't wear a mask because you need them. He told us all these other things. Donald Trump simply listened to his medical advisors and followed them. And when they're inconsistent, he looked elsewhere. So that's an utter lie. And Chris Wallace set him up to make him look bad there. Shame on you, Chris Wallace. Why don't you be honest and say, President Trump, your own medical advisors have been all over the place, like Dr. Fauci claiming you don't need to wear a mask, then changing his position later on saying you do need to wear a mask, telling us not to buy personal protective equipment, but then saying we need personal protective equipment. What's your view on why your scientists changed their position, and do you disagree with them? That would have been a fair question, but it wasn't a fair question. Then Chris Wallace lied about Donald Trump being opposed to mask. Well, President Trump, you're opposed to mask. No, he's not. The guy's got a mask in his pocket. He pulls it. And that was a classic, brilliant moment to undermine and show the bias of Chris Wallace in this debate, ladies and gentlemen. When Donald Trump reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a mask, he goes, I wear them when it's appropriate. Not like Joe, who wears it when he's in a basement by himself and nobody's within 200 yards of him. Brilliant. Well done by Donald Trump. That's classic Donald Trump at the right moment. And that was shameful behavior by Chris Wallace. That's simply a lie. Donald Trump doesn't believe in masks. That's not true. That's fiction. And you're just perpetuating. Your job is to ask legitimate questions. By the way, Chris Wallace wrote all the questions. So if there's any problem with the question, you blame Chris Wallace. And I think there's a problem with that question. It was attempted to be a gotcha moment for President Trump. He carried the water for Biden. So he talked about Donald Trump putting people at risk by having huge rallies. First off, ladies and gentlemen, never talked about the mitigating factors that take place at these rallies. First off, they're voluntary. Nobody's rounding up people and making them go to this. They're making informed decisions, many of whom are wearing masks, oftentimes with social distancing. Not always. Many of these rallies, there is no social distancing, but these are personal risks that people take of their own accord. And Chris Wallace seems to think it's the nanny state's role to decide what citizens should be allowed to do and not do. Well, that flies in the face of the Constitution. And as an objective journalist, he wouldn't have asked a question like that because it's nonsense. At the same time, he tried to contrast that with Biden, who can't draw anything other than flies to his rallies, by making it appear as if Biden was being responsible by having rallies with very few people at it. When the reality is, just like Hillary Clinton, he can't draw people to his rallies. He can't draw them. Bernie Sanders can draw people. I bet you if Bernie Sanders went out right now and had a rally, there'd be 15,000 people there. And the press wouldn't complain about those 15,000 people at a Bernie Sanders rally. But the fact that Joe Biden, just like Hillary Clinton, can't attract crowds, Chris Wallace tries to cover that up and carry the water for Joe Biden. Shameful, 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 biased position by Chris Wallace. That's fact, ladies and gentlemen. So remember in 2016 when Donald Trump came to Harrisburg and he went to the Cumberland Valley High School, 15,000 people showed up with less than 72 hours notice that he was going to be in Cumberland Valley. At the same token, 2 days prior in Harrisburg, Hillary Clinton had 238 people show up in the state capitol. 238. There were more people wiping their nose in the parking lot in Cumberland Valley or along the street trying to get to the rally than she had her entire rally. It's the same situation with Joe Biden. He's unappealing. He's drab. He's confused. He's rambling. And he's a dangerous candidate for the Democrats because he's embarrassed. But Chris Wallace teased this up with his bias to make Trump look irresponsible with the people who love Trump coming to his rallies and accepting personal responsibility for their behavior, and nobody showing up for Biden, making that look like that's a wise and prudent decision. It's not, and it's stupid. Then he did ask a legitimate question. He said Trump said there's a V-shaped recovery, and Biden says there's a K-shaped recovery. I don't know what a K-shaped recovery is. What does that mean? It goes this way, then down this way? What the hell is that? There's a U-shaped recovery, and there is a V shape with a sharp climb back up, whereas the U is much slower. So I don't know what a K-shaped reality is there. I think maybe just Wallace misspoke. Was interesting. And then Chris Wallace tries another bunch of bullshit and lies. He once again carries the water and lies. He said that you only paid $750 in income tax. And Trump said, no, I paid millions of dollars in income tax. One year I paid 24, another year I paid $38 million in income tax. Then Chris Wallace says, you're going to answer the question, did you pay income tax? Well, he just answered the question. And you're lying. You're taking the stolen tax returns, which is a federal crime, by the way. And no, the New York Times is not protected by freedom of the press. They aided and abetted the commission of a federal crime, and they should be held to account for it. That information is not public information. It's privately identifiable information, and it's between the government and the taxpayer, not the New York Slimes. So that New York Times article said that Donald Trump only paid $750 a year in taxes. Later in the article, below the fold, it actually was honest and said that he did pay taxes to $24 million in one of these years. They forgot about the $38 million. But the point is Donald Trump has paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes in the years under concern. And Chris Wallace lied to the public, saying that Donald Trump only paid $750. And then doubled down on that when Trump had already answered the question, saying that Trump wasn't answering the question. And this is where I give Trump a B-, because instead of letting Wallace get away with that lie, he should have said, I just told you the answer, Chris. I told you I paid $24 million one year and $38 million another. Where do you get $750 from? That's fraudulent. That's what Donald Trump should have said. That's where he would have been on his game. In 2016, he would have been on his game. I don't know what's going on tonight, but Donald Trump was not on his game when it comes to that. That's why he got a B- from Chris Wyatt and not a better job. Trump answered him. Pay attention, Chris Wallace. Wallace says he got to 46 minutes into the debate. It wasn't really 46 minutes because it didn't start on time, but let's say about 40 minutes into the debate before he asked the first legitimate question of Joe Biden. Everything before this was a hit job on Donald Trump. The first legitimate question to Joe Biden was, you've proposed $4 trillion tax increase. And so Joe Biden starts talking about, well, the government can create lots of things. We buy this, we spend this. And then to his credit, Chris Wallace said, Joe Biden, I wasn't asking about government spending. I was asking about increasing taxes, not spending. And that was the end of his objectivity because Biden deferred and booted and punted once again and did not answer the question and moved on about his $4 trillion in government spending for taxes, claiming as if government spending is what sparks the economy. Well, we know that is only a partial measure and is not the reason why jobs are created in the economy. By the way, this whole fiction, this gets down to it later on, Biden claiming that Trump lost, and then Chris Wallace, it's somewhere down here later on, but I'll get to it. Chris Wallace says that Barack Obama created more jobs in his final 4 years than you did in your first 4 years. Well, that's fraudulent, on the basis alone that presidents don't create jobs. Unless they expand the federal bureaucracy by adding jobs to the executive branch, they create zero jobs. Zero jobs, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just let you tell that. No jobs created by any president unless they've created new positions in the executive branch of the federal government. None. They can create conditions which make it conducive for the private sector to create jobs or for state and municipal governments to create jobs, but the President of the United States creates zero jobs outside the executive branch. And the executive branch is not growing in jobs. So it's a lie. Barack Obama created 0 jobs. Donald Trump created 0 jobs. Barack Obama created the conditions for the loss of tens of millions of jobs and the crippling of the American economy. Donald Trump created the conditions to free business from ludicrous regulations, which had 0 positive impact on economic activity and even less on reducing climate emissions. And it just simply hampered our economy and hindered business and forced companies to send jobs abroad. Donald Trump lifted those restrictions in many cases and also introduced a tax cut, which spurred the creation of tens of millions of jobs. That's the bottom line. But Trump didn't create the jobs, no more than Barack Obama did. So get your facts right, Chris Wallace. You're supposed to be a journalist. A journalist should know that. You should be educated. You should be proficient in the things you're talking about, and you're not, Chris Wallace. Your father is far more of a journalist than you'll ever be. It's very disappointing. I actually liked Chris Wallace a few years ago until he went on this nonsense. It corresponds with Donald Trump's arrival. So Biden went on, but Chris Wallace wasn't asking about spending. He was asking about taxes. So like I said, this was my comment when Wallace did. I said, lies, lies, lies. Chris Wallace claims that Obama created more jobs than Trump. It's fiction. Then Biden proudly says that I saved the automotive industry. No, you didn't. You did not save the automotive industry. You stole the automotive industry. And I'm so sick of the left and Obama and Biden lying about this. Ladies and gentlemen, the Obama administration used extrajudicial tactics to push General Motors and Chrysler into an illegal bankruptcy process that was not the proper chapter filing. They skirted that process because they threatened them with endless investigations into the lives of the executives of those corporations, destroying their wealth, destroying their savings, destroying their family. And rather than be men and women and stand up for what's right, they capitulated. Maybe they were doing something wrong. Maybe that's why. They capitulated. And Obama stole General Motors from the bondholders and from the shareholders of a publicly owned company. He did the same thing to Chrysler. And then he gave away big chunks of both corporations to the very unions who in large measure were responsible for the failure of Chrysler and General Motors, along with their own leadership, the corporate leadership. The unions played a major role in the collapse of those two companies. Absolutely. Stole General Motors. Chrysler doesn't belong to America. It belongs to Fiat. It's not even an American company. What did he save? General Motors has shed tens of thousands of jobs since it was government motors. So what did he save? And they've sold off all of their assets. General Motors doesn't own anything anymore. Hughes is not part of General Motors. Alley is not part of General Motors. GM Finance was spun off. They own nothing except car manufacturing, which is not diverse and it's far smaller than it was before. And General Motors does not have the models in the pipeline to save it the next time it fails. Simple as that. You stole it from shareholders, you liquidated the common stock, and you wiped out the bondholders who legally were entitled to recompense when the company was reorganized. And they used extra legal procedures to steal these companies from American taxpayers and retirement funds. And they've never been held to account for this. This is shameful behavior. And if Joe Biden is proud of saving it, it shows just how detached from reality he is or how much he thinks he can hoodwink the unknowing and uncaring and uninformed public. You're thieves. You stole those companies from shareholders and bondholders, and that's the truth. And I'm sick of your lying, Joe Biden and Barry Hussein Obama. You lie, you lie, you lie, and you've been doing it for years. Capitalism failed my ass. You failed, and you lied about capitalism. Capitalism doesn't fail. It's a perfect system. All right, so then Chris Wallace talks about equivalence. Okay, this was fascinating from Chris Wallace. He said that President Trump blamed Democrats and leftist cities for the violence in America and allowing it to happen. But then he points out, but Tulsa and Fort Worth are led by Republicans, and we see similar spikes there. Okay, Tulsa and Fort Worth. Thank you very much. Seattle, Portland, Pittsburgh, Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Atlanta, Chattanooga. Shall I continue, ladies and gentlemen? All Democratic cities, all run by Democrats for decades, in some cases a century. And this is where we're seeing the violence. And he points out 2 cities led by the other political party. That is dishonest in the most wildest margin possible. It's simply dishonest, Chris Wallace. You're a fraud. You're a fraud, Chris Wallace. You're a fraud. Equivalent spikes in 2 cities. Now, there are other cities run by Republicans. We could add to this, but he offered 2. And I just gave you a dozen or 8. something like that. Joe Biden says they're dying in the suburbs. Excuse me? Who's dying in the suburbs? We're not seeing armed insurrections taking place in the suburbs of America, whether black folks, Asian folks, white folks, mixed folks live in those suburbs. We're not seeing that. We're seeing it in urban centers run by Democrats and leftist mayors and states run by governors. That's where we're seeing it. I live in the suburbs. Nobody's dying here. Tain't no COVID around here killing people. Yes, there's a few people who unfortunately have succumbed to this virus, but he's telling a very dishonest narrative there. Conscious Caracal just tuned in. Elevator pitch and your thoughts on tonight's debate. I'll get back to that in a moment, Conscious Caracal. Let me get through my comments here because some people have been waiting throughout the debate to hear it. They've been with me the entire time, so thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I guess it's getting early in the morning there in South Africa. It's 5 a.m., so Conscious Caracal's up. By the way, Ernst Ritz has agreed to come on Chris Wide Africa. Did you catch that? I'll be reaching out to him sometime soon to get him on the channel. We'll see how it goes. So I can thank Ronaldo for that. Ronaldo paid it back. I helped ease the path so that Steve Hofmeyer would go back or would go on Ronaldo host. And in gratitude, he put Ernst on the spot. Of course, I had to do a super chat to get that, but that's okay. I'll talk to Ronaldo about that. So dying in the suburbs. Now, Wallace did ask this question. This was a good one. Now, I might have missed this, so if I missed it, you guys correct me, but I missed this because I was taking notes. I didn't hear him say it, but Chris Wallace says, do you support the police? And then Joe Biden said, I'm for the police. They need more assistance. I'm against defunding the police. That was encouraging to hear Joe Biden say, and I'll give Joe Biden credit that he is against defunding the police. I don't believe him, but he said it, and so I'll give him credit for saying. He said we also need community policing. Well, you're damn skipping we need community policing. We've always needed, South Africa needs community policing. Cop should know the people in their neighborhood. People should be able to trust the cop and come up to them. Hey, Officer Jones. Yeah, that's how policing should be. And some places it is like that, particularly in suburbs and small towns, like where I live in a small town. People know the cops and they trust them. They know they're well-trained and know that they're responsible. But nameless, faceless cops in big metropolitan areas, that's a problem. Community policing is important. I agree with Joe Biden on that. Well said, Joe Biden. But it's interesting because later, or not later, this time, the specific question Wallace asked him is, do you support Black Lives Matter? And I don't recall Joe Biden answering that question. If he did, I will correct myself, but I was busy taking notes, and I did not hear Joe Biden say, I disavow Black Lives Matter. Did he say that? If he did, please tell me. Somebody was watching the stream. I did not hear him answer that question. Then Wallace, to his credit, did say that there were a lot of protests, 100 days of protests, and that many of them turned into riots. So that was correct. I'll give Wallace credit for that. But the problem with this is that Joe Biden said that he's for supporting the police. He said they need more assistance. In other words, Trump's not doing enough to help the police. That's exactly what he said. That's what he said. He said that Trump need to provide them with equipment and with training and resources, the police. So he's talking about local police, state police. I'm not sure. But his point is he's talking about supporting police that have nothing to do with the federal government and is not Donald Trump's responsibility in any way whatsoever. So that's what he said. But then he turns it around. So he blames Trump for not running the police. Then he talks about Portland. He says, well, you have to stay out of the police way. So he blames Trump for not doing everything for the police and running the police. Then he says Trump has to stay out of the way. So make up your mind. Are you for helping the police or are you for staying out of the way? Staying out of the way is the correct approach because it's a federal system, Joe Biden. He was all over the place waffled, and Chris Wallace never questioned him on that. Never questioned the conflict, the discord between, the disharmony between what he said in one sentence and the next sentence. So the defund the police wasn't very popular. No, it's not popular. Biden may come to regret Antifa. Oh yeah, that I got that one coming up. That one's coming up. That was my next one here. So Biden says Antifa is an idea. Excuse me? Antifa is an idea? No, Antifa is a domestic terrorist organization. We have evidence of it. And some of their clowns have been rounded up since they've been declared. And wait till after the election, ladies and gentlemen. Black Lives Matter will be declared a domestic terrorist organization too. You just wait and see. Prediction. Within a week after the election. Well, after we know the results. All right, so maybe not before we know the results. Trump probably won't wait because he's not running ever again. Then Chris Wallace pulls the ultimate BS by teeing up a climate change question with a bunch of BS to Donald Trump. And he sets up Biden with a softball question in response, which is ridiculous. Biden says more carbon is absorbed by the Amazon. So then why do we need to cut emissions, Joe? Okay, I'm being a little unfair to Joe Biden, but his suggestion was that we pay Brazil tens of billions of dollars so that people don't cut trees down. Okay. When I suggested the U.S. government give Robert Mugabe $2 billion a year so he wouldn't destroy the commercial farming sector, so that he'd use that money to pay off his corrupt officials so they would be happy, because that's what they wanted. They wanted to steal from the farms. They didn't care about white commercial farmers being in Zimbabwe. They're the ones that approved the sale of the land to white commercial farmers. 42% of all commercial land was sold to white commercial farmers between 1980 and 2000 under Prime Minister and then President Mugabe. They didn't give a crap. They just wanted to steal, and there was nothing left to steal in the economy by 2000 because they crushed it. So they went after the commercial farming sector. If we had flown plane loads of cash to Zimbabwe, a la what Barack Obama did, giving money to the Iranians, if we'd done that on a periodic basis, then I'm telling you, the Zimbabwe never would have gone the direction it went. Would have been full of corrupt officials, but it's always been full of corrupt officials. So Biden wants us to pay off Brazil by giving people in Brazil tens of billions of dollars so they don't cut trees down. Really? How about you get Brazil to manage its forest better and get control of its land instead of just letting people run around and willy-nilly cut down the forest in the Amazon? That's Brazil's responsibility. But again, the New World Order elite leftists want us to be the world's policemen and to control everything. And that's not how it works. So Joe then says, Joe's talking about creating all these green jobs. What was Solyndra? Is that where you're going to create it, Joe? Or clean coal? What about Andrew Cuomo's $750 million solar photovoltaic panel plant in Buffalo, New York that doesn't exist anymore? That $1 billion pissed down the drain. Instead of buying 32,000 ventilators for $34 million, he buys a solar photovoltaic plant in upstate New York, which goes out of business. There you go. There you go. So all these, if we're going to create these thousands, millions of green jobs, where are they, Joe? You had 8 years of this lying to us. You poured billions of dollars of our tax dollars and money borrowed from China into fictitious companies or companies that simply failed, and these people walked away with billions of dollars in their pocket. Where are the jobs, Joe? They don't exist because we're not going to put 25% of the country's surface area under photovoltaic cells because they're unreliable, they're expensive, and they're dangerous for creation to the environment because the rare earths that they're needed to make these things, and they have to be replaced all the time. You're going to have landfulls of solar photovoltaic panels in order to provide the energy necessary to run a modern industrial or post-industrial economy. What a joke. What a joke. They're still selling and pandering this BS. Now, I believe in alternative energy, and solar photovoltaic has come very far from 17% efficiency to up in the high 20s now. But it's still less than the internal combustion engine, which is nearly 40%. 36 to 40%, 38% is what you get from the internal combustion engine when you burn gasoline or petrol inside an engine. Still 40 to 50% more than you get from solar photovoltaic. And you can use it anytime. You just fill your tank up. But you can only use solar photovoltaic when the sun is shining or you've charged your batteries. And those batteries are made from toxic materials, by the way, folks. There's not enough lithium on the planet to make sufficient batteries to power the entire planet. It's a leftist nonsense dream. Alternative energy is a good idea where it fits. I recommend alternative energy in the Karoo. Put your plants out there. Put solar thermal out there. That's a good one. Concentrated solar power. That's the other one. CSP they're calling, but it's solar thermal is what it is. And then Joe Biden talks about the election, the mail-in ballots, when Chris Wallace asks these questions. And he says, Joe Biden says, when there's a question about the ballot, you just say, well, it's me. It's me. No, it isn't. The ballots are at the Board of Elections. You're home. What's the purpose of telling the election officials that that's your ballot? Why did you mail it in the first place? You go to the polling station, you vote. There's no need for that. You're not going to have 80 million people show up at Board of Elections and stand there and expose themselves to COVID, which is the whole point of this sham mail-in ballot nonsense, is so people don't have to go to polling stations, ostensibly to avoid COVID-19. You're not going to do that. And then when the votes are in question, and we saw for ourselves in Newark, New Jersey, I said Trenton earlier, but it's Newark. In Newark, New Jersey, I typed the wrong thing earlier. In Newark, New Jersey, in the May primary, 20% of all ballots were fraudulent, as determined by the leftist Democrats who are on the voting board at the Board of Elections in Trenton, or in Newark. They themselves found 20%. Can you imagine an objective Board of Elections with officials from both parties somewhere? If it's 20% fraudulent in Newark, imagine how many it really was. It's just crazy. How do you say it's me when you're at home and your ballot's at the Board of Elections? That's nonsense. And if Joe Biden thinks that we're stupid enough to fall for that, he really is deranged. No. And then he lies. He says, it's the same way the military's done it for decades. It's not the same way, ladies and gentlemen. Don't fall for that lie. I voted absentee ballot, federal absentee ballot for the last 30 years as an active military member, not living in Ohio, voting every single year in Ohio. It doesn't work the same way. I had to go to the Board of Elections and fill out a form and show my identification to verify who I was, to get registered to vote there. Once I was registered to vote there, then I was able to apply with an absentee ballot. They have my signature on file. They had my personal details on file, and I have proved that I was military. And that's legitimate because I was in the state. Same with diplomats serving abroad. Same with business people out of the state during elections. It is a lie that the mail-in balloting process is the same and safe as federal absentee balloting. It is not. Yes, the method to get the ballot to the the Board of Elections is through the Postal Service, but that doesn't mean that mail-in balloting is federal absentee balloting. Two completely separate processes, have nothing to do with each other. Another leftist lie, and Joe Biden doesn't know what he's talking about. Doesn't know what he's talking about. Lying Jim Crow Joe. All right, to get back to Conscious Caracle's question. Conscious Caracle popped up and he said that just tuned in, elevator pitch, your thoughts tonight's debate. Tonight, I thought this was a sad, pathetic, ridiculous non-debate. It was simply a match between two candidates spewing things, and I scored Donald Trump with a B-, and I gave Joe Biden a C+. Mostly because our expectations of Joe Biden were really low. We expected Joe to show up with no pants on, walking out in boxer shorts. That's what I expected. So Biden spewed a whole bunch of nonsense, but he managed to hold his words together pretty well. I don't know if he's hopped up on amphetamines to keep him conscious or lucid, but whatever it was, he did a pretty good job, although he was the most disrespectful, condescending, smug piece of filth I've ever seen on a presidential debate stage. Worse than Donald Trump was in 2016 in the Republican primaries when he called Lying Ted and Little Marco and belittled all of his opponents. And worse than he was on a stage with Hillary Clinton. He was an absolute bore, disrespectful. He disrespected the office of the president. Look at this clown. Listen to this clown. That's what he said to the sitting president of the United States. You don't deserve to be president on the basis of that alone, Joe Biden, because you have no respect for the office. You're the clown. So my assessment so far as their performance in the debate was Donald Trump B- and Joe Biden a C+. Donald Trump the B- because he failed to hit the nail on the head several times, including when Chris Wallace hit him with BS. Chris Wallace hit him with the question about your taxes. You only paid $750 in taxes. And Donald Trump says, that's not true, Chris. I paid $24 million one year, $38 million another year. So let me ask you this again. You're not answering the question. Did you only pay $750 in taxes? And then Donald Trump moved on. No, hit him hard. Chris Wallace, you're asking a fraudulent question. You're asking what I paid in taxes. I paid in federal income taxes in 1 year, $750 in direct taxation. However, I'm subject to the alternative minimum tax, which is a federal income tax. And as a consequence, I paid $24 million. It's a ludicrous leftist talking point, and Trump didn't strike back on it. He also didn't strike back on the Paris Climate Accord. He went off on some tangent, which really wasn't the hard issue here. The bottom line is the Paris Climate Accord is a bullshit agreement. There's no penalties for rule breakers, just like there were no penalties for Kyoto rule breakers. Every industrialized country in the world that signed the Kyoto Protocol has broken it every single year since it's been in existence. That's why emissions have risen, because the Germans, the French, the Italians, the Japanese have failed to live up to their agreement under Kyoto protocols from 1997. So how is a bullshit gentleman's agreement in Paris going to change anything? It isn't. It's a lie. It's a feel-good for leftists so they can claim they've done something. Donald Trump withdrew from it. So what? We weren't obliged to follow it. The president cannot enter into a treaty. He can agree to a treaty, but the Senate must ratify it. That's why the SALT II treaty, the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks, was never ratified, never became the law in the United States, because the Senate refused to ratify it. The Senate refused to ratify the Rome Statute initially for the International Criminal Court because it discriminated against U.S. public officials and military members. The Senate was never given the opportunity to vote on the Paris Climate Accord. What Barack Obama did was fraudulent and illegal and in violation of the Constitution. Yet another constitutional violation by the chief executive, Barack Obama. He doesn't have the authority to make treaties. You could call it an accord, but it's a treaty. And you can't tie the United States to the obligations to abide by that treaty without the Senate ratifying it. So Donald Trump withdrawing from it is a non sequitur. It had nothing to do with anything. We were not going to follow them. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. The Kyoto Protocols went into effect in 2000. What is the only industrialized country in the world that actually met the Kyoto Protocol standards from 2000 to 2008? We have to go 2008 because from 2008 to 2011, the global economy took a nosedive courtesy of the U.S. government's intrusion into the subprime market and the housing market. They caused this. But from 2008, 2011, when we recovered, the world recovered, 3 years you can't count. So from 2000 to 2008, from the time it came into effect, the only country in the world that reduced its carbon emissions year after year after year was the United States. And we didn't sign it. But we improved technology. We rotated new cars through our economy. We built new factories, which are more energy efficient. And despite our population growing legally and illegally from illegal aliens invading our country, we reduced our carbon emissions. Look it up, ladies and gentlemen. It's a matter of record. It's a fact. Year after year, we reduced our carbon emissions while every European country raised their carbon emissions, all in the time they're supposed to reduce it. Now, to be fair, Germany's lowered their carbon emissions because they got rid of some of their lignite burning power plants. But every country, Canada even, raised its carbon emissions. We didn't. We lowered it without signing some stupid agreement. Who cares what agreement you sign, especially when it has no enforcement capacity? Chris Wallace's question was BS, and Joe Biden's response was BS too. Utter nonsense. All right. So that was my position on their performance. B-, C+. Am I being generous to Joe Biden? I don't know. We really expected him to implode. I think a lot of people are shocked that he didn't implode. He definitely rambled a bit, but, Trump rambled a couple times too. Let's see. Conscious Carrickle says Biden may come to regret Antifa. Yep, Antifa's an idea. That is BS. That's going to be played a lot by conservative press. Antifa has a flag and uniforms. They aren't an idea. No, they're an army. They are an insurrectionist organization. And the irony is they call themselves the anti-fascists when they are exactly that, fascist. Fascists who seek to stamp out free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of thought. They don't want any of that. So that's exactly what they are. Biden endorsing critical race theory training. He did. Thank you, Conscious Carrickle. I missed that one. Yeah, he endorsed it. Oko has just subscribed. Well, thank you for the subscription, Oko. Appreciate it. But yeah, he did. Joe Biden did endorse the forcing of racist BS on Americans. Yeah, he did with critical race theory. Absolutely right. Yep. Absolutely. And then Chris Wallace acted as if Donald Trump did something wrong by removing the racist policies that put it in that tell people that you can't legislate on how people feel about other people. That's asinine. And it's not the state's responsibility to teach Americans to be cognizant of how others feel. They're called parents, ladies and gentlemen. And when you have a nuclear family with two parents, unlike in this country where 78% of black children are born out of wedlock to single-parent mothers, 78%, nearly 8 out of 10 black children born illegitimately. 45% of Hispanic children are born illegitimately. 25% of white children are born illegitimately. And 9% of Asians in this country. When you have this epidemic of single parentism, absence of a father in the home, you can wonder why we have this nonsense in this country. Add to it all the leftist efforts to dumb down education. It's beyond conception, but it's reality, folks. Sean says he wants psychiatrists to be riding along with the police. Yeah, that's comical. D-Stu says, yes, Homeland Security says domestic terrorists will be active after the election. They're already active. Charlotte's Webb says Wallace asked President Trump to disavow the KKK, but Antifa BLM is fine. Did he ask that question? I may have missed that, Charlotte. Thanks for catching that. If he actually asked him, I missed that. Paul says Joe's a smooth liar. I agree. What is a brown star? I don't know what that was. Seal Throb is just subscribed. Wow, are people watching and subscribed? Well, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Conscious Carrickle said, told Trump to shut up. Yeah, he did. He did. Joe Biden said, would you shut up? Can you believe that? Can you believe it? That is unpresidential. And worse than Trump was in 2016. And I was one of his biggest critics in 2016, the way he behaved. Conscious Carrickle says, can anybody remember another presidential debate where a foreign war wasn't one of the top? Ooh, that's a good point. We didn't talk about any foreign wars. And why is that, Conscious Carrickle? Because Donald Trump has taken us out of foreign conflicts. He's removed us from conflict. Unlike Barack Obama, who started more wars than George Bush, but got a Nobel Peace Prize for ending conflict when he wasn't even president. What a ridiculous joke. What a ridiculous joke, ladies and gentlemen. Biden said his son got a brown star. Oh, no, bronze star, Conscious Carrickle. He said bronze star. If you heard brown star, I heard bronze. If you heard brown star, you may have heard it incorrectly because of the feed, or maybe he did say it wrong. And I'm conditioning a bronze star. His son got a bronze star. Whoop-de-doo. Ladies and gentlemen, let me put this in perspective for you. I was in the first Gulf War. Everyone in my unit who was a captain and above, plus the 2 sergeants major we had in the battalion, automatically got Bronze Stars. Regardless of what they did, they got Bronze Stars. Now, there was a captain who got a Silver Star, and it was merited for the contact that they had against the Talwakana Division. And there was a mortar platoon leader who got an Army combination with a V device for Valor. And then the Scout platoon leader also got a Bronze Star with Valor. But every officer in the grade of captain and above in the battalion, regardless of what they did or didn't do, automatically got a Bronze Star. Do you know what that told me about Bronze Stars in the first Gulf War? It's bullshit. It's bullshit. In that battalion, now I didn't get one. I was a lieutenant, and it's not sour grapes. In that battalion, the number of people who should have been awarded Bronze Star in that conflict was less than a dozen. Not every single commissioned officer in the grade of captain above, including the chaplain. So big whoop that this attorney sat in refuge in the green zone and got himself a Bronze Star. Not impressed. Not trying to denigrate the service of his son. But funny how he got all defensive about his son and tried to play that up as if we're going to fall for that. The actions of your son, Joe Biden, are not your actions. I don't vote for Donald Trump because Melania is sexy and attractive and the most beautiful first lady in the history of the United States. That's not why I vote for Donald Trump. I don't care about that. Good on him. He married a supermodel. I'm impressed. And had a kid at his age. I vote for Donald Trump because of his policies and because of his positions. Bottom line. So bringing your son into this was disgraceful. You never should have brought his son into this. That was disgraceful. And of course, he's looking at tugging at the heartstrings because his son served in uniform as a Navy attorney, and his son died from cancer, and that's what he's pulling at. And he just acted all offended. Donald Trump didn't even bring his son up. We're talking about Hunter, the sleazeball who was kicked out of the military for a positive urinalysis for doing cocaine only a few months after he was given a direct commission. Didn't even earn his commission. Direct commission, and then he gets booted for being a druggie. And also a whoremonger. Got caught with prostitutes too. The list goes on and on about Hunter Biden. And yes, the billions of dollars from China, the millions of dollars from Ukraine, all true stories. Joe Biden denied it, but he's just lying through your teeth. There's evidence of it. We have the evidence. Just be honest there, Joe. Very disgusting. Lola J says, thanks, Mr. Bio, for all the things you've done, the battles that you've won, the way you... Don't cry for me, I need Cheetos. That's good. I like that. His son worked on his cocaine addiction. Yeah, that was entertaining. Looking for us to have sympathy for his cocaine addiction. The problem with Hunter Biden and sympathy is that every time you learn something about the guy, it's more reprehensible. I mean, the things he was doing when he was married and the way he was behaving, not making moral judgments, but you can't hold the guy up to be a hallmark of morality when he's done such reprehensible things. Give him a second chance? Sure. Everyone deserves a second chance. But come on. D-Stu says, unfortunately, for those that don't know, military Bronze Stars sound good. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, D-Stu. It does sound impressive. It can be. And there are thousands of soldiers, Marines, airmen, Navy sailors who have earned legitimate Bronze Stars. I'm not trying to poo on anyone. It's a legitimate award. But again, my battalion, everyone in the grade of captain above automatically got one. I kind of cheapened the award in my mind. Really cheapened it. So I don't have a Bronze Star, by the way. I have 24 different separate individual awards, but I actually have far more than that because, for instance, I have like 9 Army Commendation medals. Whoop-de-doo! That doesn't make me a hero. It just means that I had a boss that rewarded me for excellent performance or for something I did, either in peacetime or in combat or in one of my staff jobs. Doesn't make me a genius. Yes, and I walk around with all kinds of stuff on my chest in uniform. Doesn't make me right or moral or a hero. And I would not expect anybody to go, my son, my husband, my brother, he is a war hero, he's a hero. Look at all the decorations he's got. And pull on your strings so that they can get elected to office. I would find that distasteful. Just my personal view on that one, folks. So Conscious Clerical says, Trump per se isn't important to me. It's the underhandedness of the elite forces right against him that incenses me. I agree, Conscious Clerical. Ernst Fonsal, you are correct, my friend. You're absolutely. By the way, Ernst, it's time to come back on the channel. We need to get you back on. But I don't know when I can do it because I got a lot going on right now. But my point is that, I agree with you. It's not Trump so much, and I was not a Trump fan at the beginning. I vote for him, but I don't have many options. And actually, I find a lot of what he does now, trolling the left, to actually be kind of funny. I liked, in the preparation for this debate, Donald Trump demanded that Joe Biden take a urinalysis. He offered to take one as well. That was funny because what that did is it knocked the left off their game, and they had to come up with this fake, Trump's a bad businessman because he doesn't have any money and he only paid $700 in taxes. No, That's a lie. The actual New York Times article, if you continue to read it all the way through, unlike the TV announcers, the Rachel Maddows of the world, people like that, the Chris Wallaces of the world who don't read the actual story, only repeat and parrot the nonsense that is told to them by the talking points from the leftist elites, well, then they get it wrong. But the New York Times itself disclosed later in the story that Trump paid $24 million in one of those years in taxes. Yes, because he was subject to the alternative minimum tax, like millions of Americans, an unfair tax, and he was subject to it. Anyway, so yeah, the dishonest. Chris Wallace, you shamed yourself tonight. Now, to be fair, he had a tough job. Neither Joe Biden or Donald Trump was willing to be tied to their time limit or their desire to interrupt the other guy. Both of them did it. Both of them were wrong. It was not entertaining. It was annoying at times. But I will say that when it comes to digs and accurate digs, Donald Trump got the better digs in, particularly at the end of the debate, if you want to call it a debate. At the end, as he wrapped up, Donald Trump just went through a whole list of things and he just eviscerated. I saw Joe Biden's entrails laying on the stage in that last part. Donald Trump really got his act together, and that's what got him a B-. Before that, I was considering giving him a C+. I really was. Because he had not hit back against Chris Wallace's fraudulent nonsense. Anyway, folks, give me a date and we'll book it. Yeah, Conscious Caracal, I've got some commitments coming up, so I'm not sure when I'll be able to book it yet. I've got to sort all that out, but I will let you know. We'll get it set up. I need to reach out to Ansel Hertz first. I need to get Ans on before I get you back on Conscious Caracal, just because I don't want to miss the chance. He committed. He even sent me a thumbs up in WhatsApp, so I need to get him on the channel, so I'm working on that. Folks, I hope that you found this useful, interesting, hopefully informative. I thought it was interesting to watch it, and I don't know your thoughts on my feedback. Was I critical of Chris Wallace? You're right. I was very critical of Chris Wallace. Also, I think I was fair. The times when he asked good questions, I've mentioned those, when he asked a very good question of Biden in particular, but his dishonest questions I pointed out as well. Was I fair to Joe Biden? During the chat, I would point out a lot of things that Joe was saying, and maybe my chat comments were a bit unfair to him, but I think my assessment of him was fair. I think that a lot of people would be surprised that I give him a C+. I think he did pretty well considering what people expected of him. But he just told a bunch of fairy tales and lies. For his part, Trump, as far as fact-checking, we can fact-check some of the things. He got a few things wrong. But by and large, Trump had his act together. It's just that he interrupted at the wrong time too often, and he didn't press back against Chris Wallace hard enough. So I don't think Trump was on his A game tonight, and I think Biden was on his super A game, the best he's ever going to do. So I was actually surprised Biden did as well as he did. But that's kind of where I thought. What do you guys think? What do you think about yeah, okay, Ernst, I do need to come on your channel. Absolutely. Maybe we can do that before. Maybe we can do that before I get you back on my channel. Actually, I'd love to come on, Ernst. Maybe this weekend if you're free, if you want to do something this weekend. But you have a specific schedule, so I mean I'm on every day, so I do interviews every day. So, but yeah, Ernst, Conscious Caracal, I'll be happy to come back on your channel. Thanks. It's been a while. 90 subs away from 5,000. Are you serious? Cool. Well, I can't let you catch up to me, man. I'm just kidding. I mean, I finally got rid of germ warfare. Finally got him banned, man. I called all my friends at YouTube and got him banned. Obviously, I'm just kidding, folks. If I had friends at YouTube, I'd have a lot more subscribers on my channel instead of the 974 they took out of my account in August. By the way, almost all of those people were unsubscribed without their knowledge. And I know this because dozens of people contact me and say, why did you unsubscribe me? I said, I don't control your subscription. Only you do, and YouTube does. They unsubscribe you. And I can show you the stats. By the way, that statistic, which was available on YouTube, has disappeared. It was only on the mobile version, so I could bring it up on my tablet. Whoops, my tablet, or I could bring it up. Sorry, I'm charging my tablet because it was at 5%. Or I can bring it up on my mobile, on the app, on both of those. But you can't see it on the website. It only shows you how many subscribers you gain. But on the phone, until last week, you could see how many you lost each month. They put that on there and made that available to us for a month. And then they realized that that's data they don't want us to know. So in August, I saw that I lost 974 subscribers, but I gained 1,374. Or 1,300 something. So I had a net gain of over 400 subscribers. Well, that's BS. There's no way that 974 people said, you know what, this channel's cock. I don't want anything to do with it. That's nonsense. Or there were 974 people went through and go, I'm subscribed to too many channels. Let me get rid of this one. Let me get rid of that one. That's nonsense. And I know this for a fact because one of my moderators was removed his subscription twice in the same day. He's a moderator on my channel. And we had a stream, and he comes in afterwards and he says, listen, I had to go back and resubscribe. It said I wasn't subscribed to your channel. I said, wow, that's strange. Then we did the Night Owls edition, and after that, he sends me a WhatsApp. He goes, I was unsubscribed again. I have Herman Ruse, a paying member of my site, who is still being billed for his membership, yet was unsubscribed from my channel. That's what YouTube is doing, folks. Ernst, that might be one of the reasons why things don't grow as fast as they could be. Seal Throb says, I found your post-debate commentary excellent, fair, and unbiased. I really enjoyed it. Best post-debate listening. Well, thank you, Seal Throb. I really appreciate that. I think I was fair. It was fair. And I think my assessment of Joe Biden was generous, and I think it was accurate for Donald Trump, but people may disagree. But again, I'll be honest, in the chat during the stream, I was not entirely fair to Joe Biden all the time. I attacked him quite a bit in there, but that was the chat during the stream. And what you guys are tuning in for now, and it's actually my largest audience of the evening, is during the post-debate commentary, which is where my job is to be as unbiased and fair as possible. I think that Chris Wallace was exactly what I expected. He carried the water for Joe Biden, and he asked questions that were negative of Donald Trump. He did ask a couple of Joe Biden that were negative, but there were questions that left Biden an opportunity to recover. He never asked him about his 47 years in government and what things he did to increase jobs. He never asked anything like that. Never came up. So even the questions that were hard, and there are two hard questions that Wallace asked of Joe Biden, he didn't even answer one. And then he lets him get away with it. The one about raising taxes, $4 trillion in new taxes. And Wallace asked Joe Biden, he says, the president says that that's going to crush the economy and kill jobs. What's your response? And Biden starts talking about government spending, which is what he believes in because he's a leftist and he doesn't understand how economics works. And he'd rather destroy an economy in his stubbornness, just like all leftists. So to his credit, Chris Wallace said, but Vice President, you're not answering the question. I didn't ask you about spending. I asked you about taxes. And then Joe Biden just went off and didn't answer the question again. And Chris Wallace never came back to it and held him. But he repeatedly held Donald Trump to the fire when he said Donald Trump didn't answer his questions, even when Donald Trump answered his question. When he asked the question about Trump only paying $750 in income tax, Trump said, no, that's not true, Chris. One year I paid $24 million that's in question here, and another year I paid $38 million. And then Trump said something else. He goes, but Mr. President, you're not answering my question. Are you going to answer the question? Did you only pay $750? Asked and answered, Chris. Why didn't you continue to press Joe Biden? Trump actually answered your question, and you claimed he didn't. Biden didn't answer your question. You asked him to answer the question, and then he didn't, and you let it go. Plus, he repeatedly interrupted Trump. Now, Trump did interrupt Biden, so it was the responsibility of Chris Wallace to stop Trump on occasion. But Trump, in his 2-minute response, gets interrupted by Biden, and then Trump responds, and Chris Wallace tells Trump to stop talking. It's his 2 minutes. It's his 2 minutes. Trump was not the one that was wrong. Biden was the one that was wrong. It happened on at least 4 occasions where he interrupted Trump during his 2 minutes and let Biden answer for 90 seconds and then turns it over to Biden for the next question. That's not legitimate and honest. I didn't see a clock up there showing how much time was on the questions. I clocked them here myself. Anyway, Chris Wallace was exactly what I expected. This would have been a genuine debate if Tucker Carlson, Brett Baer, or Shannon Bream had been the moderators. Shannon Bream would have been awesome. She would have been amazing and objective, and she wouldn't have let Trump or Biden get away with it. No, she wouldn't. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. So, Conscious Carol, so many experts on American politics and South African media, mainstream media, it's laughable. I'll stick to listening to your analysis as an actual American with skin in the game. Well, to be fair, Conscious Carol, I get your point, and I don't disagree with it, but I would say that I would hope you wouldn't feel that way when it comes to my commentary about South African politics. I'm not a South African, but I would argue that my analysis of South African politics is pretty good, pretty accurate, pretty spot on. And that's not being egotistical of me. I mean, it's not like I'm the first person to make that claim. So my point being that you don't have to be an American to have insightful analysis. But I will give you an example of where someone gets things wrong in just a moment, because somebody sent me, hey, Lazan is here. Good morning. We overslept. Well, you can go back and watch it from the beginning, Lazan. It was actually pretty good. So it's here for you to watch, and then you can come back and watch the commentary if you want. But good morning to you as well. Conscious says, but to be fair, there seem to be many experts in South African politics. Well, that's what I just said. but a lot of them are wrong. I'd like to think I'm pretty good. But you have first-hand in-depth. But that's true, Conscious Carol. But I would tell you that a number of people who are experts in fields don't have to have actually been to a region. I'm one of these people that doesn't subscribe to school that you can't be a subject matter expert if you've never been to a place. A small number of people are that insightful, that intelligent, and that analytical from all societies. I always say that there's a number of Alexander the Greats in every given cohort. Not a lot. It's a small percentage, less than 1% probably. But you can have people that don't have experience who have that kind of insightfulness. It's just their nature. They're just really clever people who get other people and appreciate it. So, and the reason I make that is because I think it's fair. I mean, I've met Germans who can tell you all about Nigerian politics, and they've never been to Nigeria, but they're very switched on. And I can talk to you about South Africans that really know what's going on, say in Morocco. I've met a couple can tell me about what's happening in Morocco. So but it's a very small number of people that are capable of doing that. Usually you have to have some kind of experience in a place to really get appreciation for it. But if you're a clever person, you look at culture and you look at language and you learn those things, and it really helps you learn that path. EditTube is here. Good to see you. Conscious Carol, if Biden wins, China wins. Well, yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. And Hunter Biden wins big time. Imagine the contracts he'll get when Joe Biden is president and he gets to fly in Air Force One all the time. So anyway, I think that's kind of where we're at, folks. Looks like people are dropping off now, even though some people have come into the stream. But I want to thank you guys for being part of this. It's now 11:30. I've been streaming for 3 hours, so I'm gonna call it quits. I think what I'll do is I'll download this and I'll edit it and I'll do the post debate so that people want to just watch the post debate can do that. I'll leave the rest untouched because if you want to watch the whole stream and have the debate, that's fine. That way you don't have to go to 3 different videos. I'll leave that video up for this live stream, and then I'll make a special video uploaded of my post debate analysis, and then you can just go into that and you guys can do it. South African mainstream journalists consider themselves experts in U.S. politics because they read the New York Times. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the same New York Times that lied. It's an act of omission to lie. Lazan says it's very difficult these days to find people who are capable of truly being neutral. I'll definitely watch from the beginning. Well, thank you, Lazan. But yeah, let me give an example here. So one of the viewers from my channel sent me a video from the was it ENCA? ENCA at it again, and they interviewed someone from, was it WITS or some university in South Africa about security in Africa, and it was talking about military bases in Africa, not attacking the U.S., but talking about the growth of military bases. And the gentleman talked about 3 bases for doing it. One is legitimacy, is peacekeeping operations. That's why bases can be helpful. And then he went on, he talked about something else. And the third point was acting in their own interest. And he said, that's the one that's troubling. Well, I have all kinds of problem with that. I'm going to watch this video again. I'm probably going to make a video in response to this, even though most people haven't seen it. And I'll give you a link so you can watch that video. But it was a situation of this guy talking about these foreign powers, China, Russia, the United States, France, Japan, these foreign powers having bases in Africa because that's how they're selling weapons in Africa. Well, first off, that's BS. China is selling weapons, but they don't need bases. They've been selling weapons here for decades in Africa without bases in Africa. So the bases don't facilitate. That's nonsense. They have a naval base in Djibouti. That is not how they're getting weapons in Africa. They're getting weapons in Africa through airplanes and through ships, which is what they've been doing since the 60s. There's your facts. Also, I was really disgusted by this gentleman's portrayal of this because he implied that the United States was selling weapons in Africa, and that's a lie. We sold M1 Abrams tanks to Morocco, who bought them, but that's North Africa. We've sold Super Tucanos to Nigeria after 7 years of denying them so they could fight Boko Haram, and hearing Nigeria castigate us in the press and complain that we were handicapping their counterterrorism fight against Boko Haram because we refused to do it because of human rights abuses in Nigeria. Well, we finally are selling them as Super Tucanos, so yes, there's a weapon system there. But we don't sell rifles, we don't sell grenades, we don't sell landmines, we don't sell tanks, we don't sell planes, we don't sell any of that stuff in Africa, anywhere. We have delivered Cessna aircraft to multiple countries, but non-weapon platforms for surveillance, for reconnaissance, for VIP transport, for transport items. C-130s is excess defense articles, which are used for transport. We don't sell guns and artillery pieces and weapons of death in Africa, with a few exceptions, and I've just noted the exceptions. So I really found that distasteful because that was simply a lie. And that's a lie of omission, this gentleman putting that out there. And that's what I'm talking about. And this is what happens. This is a very well-informed PhD in South Africa who's talking about security in Africa. And a lot of his argument got correct, but that's simply misleading and lying. And I have issue with that. And I'll probably make a response video to that so you guys know what I'm talking about. But anyway, there you go. Good night. We keep saying good night to me. Conscious Character, your day's just starting. I'm not going to bed yet, man. I'm all wired now after watching this and drinking this huge ass size Starbucks right here. Sorry for the profanity. Butt size, the big bum size Starbucks here. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope that you found it useful, and I thank you for your feedback. A couple people gave feedback, others didn't. Maybe they didn't like my analysis. That's fine. You don't have to agree with me. This is not a echo chamber. I'm happy to listen to other things, despite the nonsense that some people claim. like on someone else's channel. Oh, Chris Wyatt, if you argue with him, man, you say anything about Trump. Guys, I just said bad stuff about Trump. Did I not? I said where Trump fell down in this debate and where he didn't get it right. I don't know if Trump was going easy on Biden. I think he was in some respects. He's certainly going easy on Chris Wallace, and I don't understand why that happened. But I expect Trump to come out swinging the next time. We'll see. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm going to cut this in half, so it's just the post-debate, and then you'll be able to have the full thing. You can watch it all with the commentary afterwards, or just watch the commentary. All right, so cool beans, folks. Have a good night. I'll be on tomorrow. By the way, please tune in. I have Eric Bello, a professional actor and photographer, and Eric is starred in Good Girls, MacGyver, The Walking Dead. The list is endless. He's also been lead actor in some movies, and he's done telenovelas because he performs not just in English but also in Spanish. I think in Italian as well, I think he's done. But Eric Bello, you'll recognize his face. You'll probably have seen him in some of these programs. But check out the video description. That's tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time, or today. Well, it's still tomorrow for me, but it's already today for you guys in Africa. But 15 minutes away from tomorrow for me. So it's Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. in South Africa, my normal time. And again, my apologies today, folks, for my eye emergency. I had to go to see an ophthalmologist who looked to see if I'd torn my retina again. And so I had to postpone my noontime interview until 3 p.m. And I appreciate those who showed up, although it was a small audience. I hope that's not indicative of the audiences going forward. But anyway, thanks for tuning in for that. That's tomorrow, Wednesday. Thursday, Mimi Kalinda from South Africa, who will be on talking about changing the narrative on Africa. That's on Thursday. On Friday, by demand, Wyatt Dutoy, the former prisoner of war from the South African Defense Force who was captured in Angola, and the prolific public speaker and writer himself, Wyatt Dutoy, the retired South African military officer, will be on my channel by popular demand on Friday. Still setting up this weekend schedule, folks, so tune in for that. There'll be more coming. Davi Oosthuizen, I'm getting you on my program too one day, brother. We're going to do that. Also, coming up on, is Blood River celebration on the 10th of October, I think it is, something like that. I plan to do a live stream if I can get footage and feeds from Blood River for those going out there for that event coming up. So if that does happen, that's the plan, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in to, there's some Setswana there, Setswana. But thank you for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. We'll catch you in a matter of hours, about 12 hours here on Chris Wyatt Africa. And I want to thank you all for tuning in, and I appreciate the feedback. Also, for those who subscribe to the channel during the stream, thank you so much for that. And the Flying Boar gave 2 super chats. Flying Boar, thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate it. I hope I answered your questions adequately. I do appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, have a lovely morning in South Africa. By the way, it was Giselle's birthday yesterday. In case you missed it, I did a video. Happy birthday to Giselle. Please go check out our Facebook page or go to giselle.co.za, Jezelle. I always think of that Jell-O commercial in America, Jello. No, Jezelle, giselle.co.za, and check out her music there. And also you can go look for her on Facebook, type in Giselle, South Africa, she'll come up. And then wish her a happy birthday, ladies and gentlemen. It was her birthday yesterday. So she's had quite an eventful year doing an album launch via COVID online. Her daughter turned a year old this year, her first child, and now she's had a birthday. So quite the year for Giselle. Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. We'll catch you tomorrow. Ramos says, I don't have a dog in this fight, but the first polls say Biden won. Okay, that's fine. The polls also say Biden's going to the election. They said Hillary's going to the election too. So we'll see. Like I said, the expectations for Joe Biden were very low. And so the fact that he walked out with his trousers on probably already put him in good stead for this election, or this debate. That's fine, Ramo. I'm not surprised to hear that they say Biden won. They said that Hillary won the debates last time. Are you serious? Donald Trump wiped the floor, he mopped the floor with Hillary Clinton in all the debates last time, and they claim that she won the debates. It's utter nonsense. So it's just subjective. It's how people view. Ramo, how do you feel? If you don't mind sharing, do you think that Biden won the debate? If you did, that's fine. I don't think that Biden won the debate. I don't think any of us won the debate. I think this was embarrassing, and Biden's conduct was shameful. Worse than Donald Trump's in 2016, in my own view. And remember, I'm a guy that didn't like Trump. So there you go, folks. All right, that's it. Take care. We'll catch you tomorrow or today if it's already South Africa. You guys have a good night and be safe, folks. As Big Daddy Liberty says, never trust a commie. And as Chris Wyatt says, never trust an ANC comrade, because they're simply looking to take what you have, whether it's out of your pocket or it's elsewhere. All right, folks, my closing video is in the wrong spot here, so I'm going to catch you later. Good night. Thanks a lot. God bless. Be safe.